Picture this. It is, well, it's a sun-drenched, totally flawless evening in Saint-Tropez, right in the heart of the south of
Oh,
France.
gorgeous.
Right, the Mediterranean air is warm, the champagne is flowing, and like the wealth on display is just staggering. On one side of the marina, aboard this jaw-droppingly luxurious yacht, a young married couple is casually eating ice cream with absolute rock royalty.
Sounds like a typical Tuesday for them.
Exactly. But just down the road, literally a 5-minute walk away, a globally famous sports and fashion dynasty is sitting down to an opulent dinner alongside a basketball legend.
Wait, just a 5-minute walk?
5 minutes. They are in the exact same city. They are breathing the exact same salty Mediterranean air. But I mean, they might as well be on entirely different planets because right now, an invisible, completely impenetrable wall stands between them. The cameras flash. The crowd froze. And just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession. Welcome to Starscope Report.
Join Jordan and Jamie as they uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And that is exactly what we are setting out to do for you today. We are taking you on a deep dive into the unprecedented, highly public, and honestly kind of heartbreaking fracture of the Beckham family empire.
Yeah, it really is a wild story.
Our mission today is to unpack the silence, the legal walls, and the shocking claims that have torn one of the world's most famous, heavily branded families right down the middle, leaving fans and the media completely stunned.
To do this right, we've pulled together a massive stack of sources for you. We are looking at in-depth investigative reporting from Harper's Bazaar, The Economic Times, In Touch, and Indulge Express.
Those are some heavy hitters.
Right, but we aren't just looking at the tabloid angles. We're also bringing in some crucial clinical perspective to truly understand the underlying why behind all this drama. For that, we are drawing heavily on insights from psychotherapist and family estrangement specialist Carl Melvin.
Oh, from his recent appearance on Ireland AM. Right?
Exactly. It was a very eye-opening interview.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We have to start with the sheer wild geographical coincidence of this summer's yacht vacations, because the visuals alone are stunning.
We really are.
Let's set the scene for you. It's August 2026. Brooklyn Beckham, who is now 27, and his wife Nicola Peltz are vacationing in Nice and Saint-Tropez. Now, notably, they are avoiding their usual summer trip with Nicola's billionaire father, Nelson Peltz.
Interesting pivot for them.
Right. Instead, they've opted to stay on a yacht with Brooklyn's godfathers. That's music icon Elton John, who is 79, and his husband, David Furnish, who is 63. Sounds like a lovely, peaceful, incredibly privileged getaway, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, but, the peace kind of vanishes when you look at who is moored just down the coastline.
Yeah.
Because just a 5-minute walk away, David and Victoria Beckham are on their own annual family yacht trip. They've got their other kids with them, so Romeo, along with his girlfriend Kim Turnbull, Cruz, and Harper.
And just to add to the sheer celebrity weight of this Mediterranean standoff, they are hanging out with Michael Jordan and his wife, Yvette Prieto.
Missing each other by 5 minutes in the south of France. You really have to wonder, did they know?
I mean, did their security teams look at a map and think, wow, we are right next door? But here is the kicker for you. Despite being a literal 5-minute walk from each other, there was absolutely zero chance of a heartwarming family reunion on the docks.
None at all.
And the reason why is staggering. Brooklyn literally served his parents with official legal papers late last summer.
Yeah, that's incredibly intense.
And honestly, I have to admit, I'm genuinely confused here. Why would a family, any family, but especially one so obsessed with their brand, resort to formal legal notices?
It's a good question.
Why not just put your phone on Do Not Disturb and ignore their calls? This isn't just some Thanksgiving dinner argument. This is like building an iron curtain of PR where the moat is made entirely of billable hours.
I actually love that analogy. But we really need to unpack exactly what that moat of billable hours physically looks like, because it answers your question.
Please do.
So the invisible wall you mentioned earlier, it isn't just emotional. It's a binding legal mechanism. According to the sources, Brooklyn sent a formal letter to David and Victoria demanding that all direct contact cease immediately.
All direct contact?
Yes. He stipulated that if his parents want to speak to him or even communicate about him, they are legally required to go through the high-powered, London-based law firm Schillings.
Schillings. For those who don't know, that is a firm known for handling massive corporate disputes, libel cases, and, intense celebrity crisis management.
Exactly.
And this is a son sending them to his own mother and father. How does that even work in practice?
Well, in practice, it means the parents cannot text, they cannot call, and they cannot send a letter directly to Brooklyn's home. If David Beckham wants to wish his son a happy birthday, he has to send an email to a corporate attorney at Schillings. Then that attorney reviews it, filters it, and decides if it meets the criteria to be passed along to Brooklyn's legal representation.
That is just incredibly bleak.
It really is. Brooklyn also instructed them not to upload any public remarks about him on social media. He was reportedly deeply offended by media briefings that painted him as a quote-unquote hostage.
Right, the narrative that he was supposedly being isolated and controlled by Nicola.
Exactly. So the law firm basically acts as an enforcement mechanism to stop the PR leaks.
That is so extreme.
But what's fascinating here is the psychology behind why someone resorts to that mechanism. If we look at the insights from psychotherapist Carl Melvin, he talks about the continuum of estrangement.
And we really need to explain this carefully for everyone listening.
Definitely. Estrangement isn't a simple on and off switch. On one end of the continuum, you have low contact. That's an emotional distance where you might still see each other at major holidays, but you keep things surface level.
Like you talk about the weather, you don't engage in deep emotional conversations.
Right. But Brooklyn has moved to the extreme opposite end, the no contact physical spectrum.
So he's hitting the absolute limit.
Exactly. Melvin points out that people only go to these extreme legal lengths when they hit an absolute psychological threshold. It means the perceived threat, the manipulation, or the pressure is so overwhelming that a simple ignored phone call isn't enough to protect their mental peace.
Because if your parents are incredibly powerful, wealthy, public figures with endless resources and media connections, a blocked number doesn't actually stop them from reaching you.
Or controlling your narrative. You need an enforceable barricade.
And this legal barricade completely ruptured their public image. The fallout spilled onto Instagram in a way the Beckhams have always meticulously avoided.
Oh, it was a mess to watch.
Cruz Beckham, who is 20 now, publicly commented on the situation, stating that he and his parents woke up one morning to find that Brooklyn had blocked them completely out of nowhere. Cruz was adamant, saying, "My mom and dad would never unfollow their son. Let's get the facts right."
And the parents' reaction on social media has been fascinating. Almost chaotic, honestly. David Beckham posted a 2025 year in review on Instagram that completely left Brooklyn out.
Which is a huge statement on its own.
Huge. But then, almost as if the PR machinery panicked and tried to correct the narrative, he followed it up with a story featuring a photo of him in Brooklyn.
Right, with the caption, "You are my life, I love you all, love daddy."
Yeah, and Victoria promptly reposted it.
But if you think a legal notice via a corporate law firm is intense, wait till you hear what Brooklyn says happened just weeks before his wedding. That is when the real betrayal allegedly started.
And it is definitely not what the tabloids were telling us.
By the way, if you are loving these Hollywood twists, make sure you're subscribed to us. We have got even crazier stories ahead.
For sure. So to truly understand the legal letters of 2025, we have to rewind to the primary catalyst, the 2022 wedding.
The infamous wedding.
Right. For years, the media painted this picture of Brooklyn as a hostage, completely isolated and controlled by his wealthy wife, Nicola. But in a massive, explosive public statement released on Instagram early in 2026, Brooklyn completely flips that narrative on his head.
He really does.
He says he wasn't taken hostage by his wife. He was actually escaping his family.
Talk about a hijacked wedding. You know, the media spent years focusing on the dress drama.
Oh, the dress.
For a long time, the story was that Nicola intentionally snubbed Victoria by not wearing her design. But Brooklyn's statement claims that Victoria's atelier actually backed out of making the dress at the 11th hour.
Which is so messed up.
And they allegedly did this despite knowing how excited Nicola was, effectively forcing her into an absolute panic to find a Valentino down at the last minute.
It's awful.
But honestly, as stressful as that is, the dress is nothing compared to what happened at the reception. This feels like a masterclass in establishing dominance.
Dominance is the exact right word. We have to look at the first dance.
Oh, this part is just brutal to think about.
This is universally supposed to be the moment for the bride and groom. Mark Anthony, a legendary singer and a close friend of David's, was scheduled to introduce Brooklyn and Nicola to the floor for a romantic first dance they had planned and anticipated for weeks.
But that is not what happened.
No. Instead, Mark Anthony called Victoria to the stage.
I cannot even imagine the secondhand embarrassment in that room.
Brooklyn said his mother danced very inappropriately on him in front of 500 wedding guests.
He literally called it the most humiliating moment of his entire life.
It was so psychologically damaging and caused so much anxiety and embarrassment that Brooklyn and Nicola actually renewed their vows in August 2025.
Just so they could have memories of a wedding day that brought them joy rather than trauma. The first dance wasn't about celebrating the couple. It was a hostile takeover of the spotlight.
And while a hijacked first dance is deeply uncomfortable and certainly a huge breach of boundaries, it's really just a symptom.
Yeah.
This raises an important question about the structural dynamics of the Beckham family. Because the drama wasn't just emotional, Brooklyn alleges it was deeply systematically financial.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Brooklyn claims that in the weeks leading up to the wedding, his parents tried to pressure and quote-unquote bribe him into signing away the rights to his own name.
Which is wild to think about.
He alleges that they deeply resent him for delaying their payday. Now, you have to help me out here. What does that actually mean?
It's complicated.
Like, how does a parent ask a child to sign away their name, and what is the mechanical reality of doing that?
This is where we have to view the Beckhams not just as a family, but as a multinational corporation.
Okay, I'm following.
The Beckham name is a massive, multi-million-dollar global commodity. Over decades, David and Victoria have trademarked their names for clothing lines, fragrances, media appearances, you name it.
Right, they are a massive brand.
So when you sign away the rights to your name, you are legally transferring the intellectual property of your identity to a corporate entity. In this case, likely a holding company controlled by his parents.
So if he signs it away, he literally can't start a business under his own name without their permission.
Precisely. If Brooklyn wants to launch a cooking show, a photography brand, or a clothing line, all the profits and creative control would funnel through his parents' corporate structure.
Wow.
By refusing to sign and specifically aligning himself with the billionaire Peltz family, who have their own massive financial infrastructure, Brooklyn disrupted the brand.
He retained his independence.
Yes, and according to his claims, that infuriated his parents because it denied them control over his future earnings, the so-called payday.
That reframes everything. It's not just a mother missing her son, it's a board of directors losing an asset.
Very well put.
And according to Brooklyn, the retaliation for this was relentless. He explicitly stated that his parents sent his brothers, Romeo and Cruz, to attack him on social media as a coordinated pressure campaign before they ultimately blocked him.
Just pitting siblings against each other?
And he also claims that Victoria repeatedly invited women from his past into their lives, seemingly just to make him and Nicola uncomfortable.
It really illustrates how far a family might go when the lines between genuine emotional connection and brand management are completely erased.
And it didn't stop at the wedding either. Brooklyn claims that when he and Nicola traveled to London for David's massive 50th birthday celebrations, David flat out refused to see Brooklyn privately if Nicola wasn't there.
He wouldn't meet with his own son one-on-one.
Yup. And later, when the Beckhams were in Los Angeles, they reportedly refused to see Brooklyn entirely. It is a complete freezing out.
Well, later in this deep dive, we'll talk about the shocking psychological analysis that explains exactly why Brooklyn says stepping away behind a legal wall was the only way he could survive.
Let's talk about breaking out of the gilded prison, because right now, sitting here looking at these sources, we have two wildly competing narratives, and I am genuinely struggling to reconcile them.
It's definitely tough.
On one hand, you have David Beckham, who recently did a highly publicized interview with CNBC where he addressed the feud without naming names directly.
Right.
He said, children are allowed to make mistakes. That's how they learn. You have to sometimes let them make those mistakes as well.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that CNBC quote is an incredibly revealing piece of PR strategy.
Yeah, so?
It positions David as the wise, patient, benevolent patriarch simply waiting for his errant, confused son to learn a harsh lesson out in the real world.
Oh, I see what you mean.
But psychotherapist Carl Melvin offers a totally different lens that challenges that PR narrative. He brings up the concept of the gilded prison.
Okay, break that down for us. What exactly is a gilded prison in this context?
So there's a massive generational gap in how this family experiences fame. David and Victoria earned their fame. They built their empire from the ground up in their 20s and 30s through immense talent and hustle.
Right, they worked for it.
But Brooklyn was born into a hyper-controlled, reality TV-esque environment. From the day he was born, his image was constantly managed, monetized, and scrutinized by a massive PR machine that he had absolutely no say in building.
Wow, that is a lot of pressure for a kid to grow up with.
Exactly. A gilded prison is an environment of extreme wealth and privilege where the child's entire existence is essentially a corporate asset.
So, what does this all mean for you, the listener, trying to make sense of this? I find myself going back and forth.
It's very polarizing.
You look at one side and you see parents who are reportedly bemused and devastated, who claim they have zero malice, only deep concern for their son, and who insist their door is always open. But then you look at the other side and you have a 27-year-old man who says he grew up with overwhelming anxiety because he was constantly controlled and manipulated. He says that anxiety only disappeared when he finally cut his parents off and hired lawyers.
It's a stark contrast.
Are we looking at a classic case of parental alienation, where a very wealthy spouse has convinced her husband his family is toxic? Or is Brooklyn genuinely escaping a deeply manipulative, borderline abusive corporate environment disguised as a family?
It's a really difficult tension.
Yeah.
And it's vital that we remain impartial here because the psychological reality is that both experiences can feel entirely 100% true to the people living them.
That makes a lot of sense.
A parent can genuinely feel devastated and confused, while a child can genuinely feel suffocated and traumatized. As Melvin points out, we have to understand that estrangement is rarely about one isolated incident.
Right, so it's not just a hijacked dance, a canceled dress, or a single argument over trademarking a name.
Exactly. Those are just the flashpoints. True estrangement is a compounding pattern over years, decades, even of boundary crossing, mismatched expectations, and a desperate fight for individuality.
Which is so much harder when your family is a global brand.
When you grew up in a gilded prison, the only way to establish an identity that is actually yours is to structurally break the prison walls. Brooklyn said it himself in his statement.
What did he say exactly?
He said he and his wife do not want a life shaped by image, press, or manipulation. To him, cutting ties, serving legal papers, and demanding communication go through shillings wasn't an act of malice. It was a necessary survival mechanism to establish who he actually is outside of being a Beckham.
Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next.
Definitely.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I just keep thinking about those two yachts in the south of France.
Yeah, that visual is hard to shake.
5 minutes apart. You could practically swim from one to the other in the warm Mediterranean water. Yet there is a strict legal mandate drafted by high-powered corporate attorneys sitting right between them, keeping a mother and father away from their son.
It's such a striking image of modern celebrity tragedy.
It really is.
And that brings us to a final, rather chilling thought, directly building on Carl Melvin's clinical experience with family estrangements of this magnitude.
What did he note about that?
He notes that in many cases of deep, entrenched family estrangement, especially ones involving these extreme no-contact boundaries where lawyers are involved, those walls often only come down when a sudden tragedy, a severe illness, or a bereavement strikes.
Wow.
When the unthinkable happens, it forces a sudden, harsh reappraisal of what actually matters, stripping away the PR, the branding, and the ego.
That is incredibly sobering. It really strips away all the glamour we've been talking about, doesn't it?
It really does.
When you frame it like that, it's profoundly sad. You have this family that has everything, unlimited resources, global adoration, beautiful yachts, and yet they are completely fractured.
Yeah, it's tragic.
It makes you realize that no amount of wealth or brand management can protect you from the very human reality of mortality. The idea that it might take someone getting sick, or worse, to allow a father to speak to his son again, it just breaks your heart, regardless of whose side you might lean toward.
So it leaves us with this to ponder, long after you finish listening today. In a family that has spent decades meticulously building an invincible, highly manicured global empire, will it ultimately take a devastating real-life crisis to finally shatter the legal walls they've built between each other?
You've been listening to Starscope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.